Hello students, welcome to the lecture series on financial management. Today we shall take up another topic under cost of capital and it is weighted average cost of capital. Under today's lecture, we shall take up the practical aspect of weighted average cost of capital, that is calculation of weighted average cost of capital. In our previous lectures based on cost of capital, we have learned the detailed calculation of various contents of or elements of cost. That is, we were having a cost structure, we ascertained cost of equity, cost of preference shares, cost of debt. So, we will assign weights to all these capital structure elements and find out our overall cost of capital, that is known as weighted average cost of capital. So, we shall move ahead, take up a practical question and understand how to compute weighted average cost of capital. Here is a question: capital structure of Y Limited and its after tax cost of capital from different sources is as follows. Under first column sources are given, in second column amount is given and in third column cost of capital which is being computed after tax is given. We need to compute weighted average cost of capital. For debentures, amount is 3 lakhs and cost of capital is 4%. Preference share capital, amount is 2 lakh and cost of capital is 8%. For equity share capital, amount is 4 lakh and cost of capital is 10%. For retained earnings, it is 1 lakh and its cost of capital 9%. Compute the weighted average cost of capital. Now, we will move towards solution. We will present our solution for computation of weighted average cost of capital in a tabular format. We will place the information given in first two columns, that is sources of fund and amount. We are having sources of fund in our capital structure as debentures 3 lakh, preference share capital 2 lakh, equity share capital 4 lakh, retained earnings 1 lakh. We are also having its cost of capital. First of all, under column third in our solution, we will assign weight to the each source of fund. We know that total of 3 lakh plus 2 lakh plus 4 lakh plus 1 lakh amounts to 10 lakh. So, out of 10 lakh debentures are 3 lakh. So, for debentures we are assigning the weight as 0.3 because out of total funds of the company, debentures are 30%. So, its weight is 0.3. Similarly, 2 lakh divided by 10 lakh preference shares will be assigned a weight of 0.2. Equity share capital 4 lakh divided by 10 lakh, it will be assigned the weight of 0.4. Retained earnings 1 lakh divided by 10 lakh, it will be assigned weight as 0.1. So, our third column is read as weights: debentures 0.3, preference share capital 0.2, equity share capital 0.4 and retained earnings 0.1. We are already given cost of capital after tax in question. We will write the percentage in the form of amounts, that is we will divide 4 by 100. So, the cost of capital will be 0.04 for debentures, preference share capital it is 8%. So, we will write it as 0.08. For equity share capital, cost of capital is 10%. So, we will write it as 0.10. Retained earnings, we are given the rate as 9%. So, we will write it as 0.09. Now, weighted average cost of capital after tax is to be ascertained. We will simply multiply weights with cost of capital. So, for debentures, we can ascertain it as 0.3 into 0.04 is equal to 0.012. Preference share capital 0.2 into 0.08, it will give us the result as 0.016. Equity share capital 0.4 into 0.10, it will give us the value as 0.040. Retained earnings 0.1 into 0.09, it will give us the value as 0.009. Adding it all, that is for debentures, preference share capital, equity share capital and retained earnings, we will get the weighted average cost of capital as 0.077. Multiplying it by 100, we can express it in the form of percentage, and our weighted average cost of capital, which is represented as KO, is 7.7%. So, this is the basic example to compute the weighted average cost of capital using the book value as the weights. Now, we will move ahead and learn another question based on calculation of weighted average cost of capital. Calculate weighted average cost of capital from the following information. Sources: 8% debentures 5 lakh, 5% preference share capital 2 lakh, 50,000 equity shares 5 lakh and retained earnings 3 lakh. So, total source of fund is 15 lakh. So, we can say that our capital structure is having these elements of funds: debentures, preference share capital, equity share capital and retained earnings. We need to compute weighted average cost of capital. The other information which is given is the market price of equity share is 30 rupees per share. The company has declared a dividend of 3 rupees per share. Assume corporate tax rate at 50%. Shareholders individual income tax rate is 25%. So, here we can see that certain percentage are being given and certain cost we need to ascertain to find out our weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital is nothing but weights being assigned to each element of cost and finding out the aggregate or overall cost of capital. Here we are having debentures as 8%. So, cost of debts before tax is 8%. Preference share dividend rate is the cost of preference share, that is 5%. Equity share cost and retained earning cost we need to find out. We are given certain additional information that market price of share is 30 rupees and dividend declared is 3 rupees, then tax rates are given. So, we need to compute cost of equity, share capital and retained earnings first. So, here is the formula for computation of after tax cost of capital. Cost of 8% debentures. We have used the formula KD, that is cost of debt before tax into 1 minus tax rate. So, 8 into 1 minus 0.5. So, we are getting the cost of debentures as 4%. It is after tax cost of debenture. Cost of equity shares. The formula to ascertain KE is DPS upon MPS into 100, that is dividend per share upon market price per share into 100. Dividend per share is given as 3. Market price of the equity shares is given in the question as 30. So, 3 divided by 30 into 100, we have a certain cost of equity to be 10%. Cost of retained earnings formula is DPS into 1 minus corporate tax rate divided by MPS into 100. 3 is the dividend, bracket 1 minus 0.25 is the corporate tax rate divided by 30 into 100 is equal to 7.5. So, now we are having all cost of capital, that is for debentures, preference shares, equity shares and cost of retained earnings. So, we will present our calculations in a tabular format to arrive at weighted average cost of capital. First of all, we will write source of fund, its amount, then we will assign the weights and then we will write the cost of capital. So, calculated multiplying weights into cost of capital, we will get the weighted average cost of capital. Here the first column says that 8% debentures 5 lakh, preference share capital 2 lakh, equity share capital 5 lakh, retained earnings is 3 lakh. So, weights are being assigned by dividing the total amount of source with each element of the source of fund. Here we are having 15 lakh as the total of our investments or total of the funds. 5 divided by 15, that is 1/3 or 0.333 is the weight for debentures. 2 divided by 15, that is 2 lakh divided by 15 lakh. We are getting the weights as 0.133 for preference share capital. Equity share capital again 0.333, 5 divided by 15. Retained earnings 3 divided by 15, that is 0.2. This way weights are being calculated. Cost of capital we have already calculated. For debentures it is 4%. So, we have written over here as 0.04. Preference share capital 5% rate was given. So, we will write here as 0.05. Equity share capital's cost of equity we have computed 10%. So, we have written over here 0.10. Retained earnings 7.5. So, we have written here 0.075. Multiplying weight with their respective cost of capital, we will ascertain weighted average cost of capital, that is 0.333 into 0.04. We have got the value as 0.01332. For preference share capital 0.133 into 0.05, we have got the value as 0.00665. For equity share capital 0.333 into 0.10, that is 0.0333, and for retained earnings 0.2 into 0.075, we have got the value as 0.015. Aggregating all these values in the last column, we have got the weighted average cost of capital as 0.06827. Multiplying it by 100, we can express our weighted average cost of capital in percentage, that is 6.83%. So, this is the way when we have different set of sources of fund, we can first find out their cost, then we can ascertain the weights, and multiplying weight with the cost, we can ascertain the weighted average cost of capital. Now, students, we will take up another question where we need to compute cost for each element, and with the given set of information we could revise how we have computed cost of capital for debentures when they were redeemable, how preference shares cost is being computed, how equity shares cost is being computed when growth rate and other parameters are given. So, this is the most typical example for computation of weighted average cost of capital, and market values are being used as the weights. So, let us read this question and try to solve it. The capital structure of MNP Limited is as under: 9% debentures 2,75,000, 11% preference shares 2,25,000, equity share capital face value of 10 per share 5 lakh. Additional information, and this is the most important part of the question. Rupees 100 per debenture redeemable at par has 2% flotation cost and 10 years of maturity. The market price of the debentures is 105. Second point, rupees 100 per preference share redeemable at par has 3% floating cost and 10 years of maturity. The market price per preference share is 106. Equity share has rupees 4 flotation cost, market price per share is 24. The next year's expected dividend is rupees 2 with an annual growth rate of 5%. The firm has practice of paying all earnings in the form of dividend. Corporate tax rate is 35%. So, here we can analyze that for each set, for debentures we are given the information that they are redeemable for 10 years, their redeemable value is different from net proceeds, their market price is given. For preference shares again flotation cost is given. So, net proceeds could be ascertained, their maturity period is being given, they are also redeemable preference shares and market price is given. For equity shares, we are having share price, flotation cost, dividend and the growth rate. So, we will apply the formula for computation of KE according to the parameters being given. Corporate tax rate is 35%. So, we will start up the solution, find out the cost of each segment and then we will apply the market value weights. So, our solution is computation of weighted average cost of capital using market value weights. First of all, cost of equity is ascertained using the formula D1 upon P0 plus Z plus G is the growth rate. So, it will be dividend is 2 rupees per share. So, we have written D1 as 2 divided by P0, that is market price of the share minus flotation cost, rupees 2 divided by 24 minus 4 plus 5% growth rate is giving us the cost of equity as 15%. Cost of debts. Since debts are redeemable, we will use the formula for calculation of cost of debts for redeemable debts, that is interest into 1 minus tax plus RV minus NP upon N divide by RV plus NP upon 2. RV here is the redeemable value, NP is the net proceeds. Interest is, we know that these are 9% debentures. So, 9 will be the interest, 1 minus 0.35, 0.35 is the tax rate which is given, plus redeemable value is 100 as they are redeemed at par, minus 98 since flotation cost is 2%. So, net proceeds are face value minus flotation cost is net proceed, that is 98 divided by N, that is term of maturity. It is divided by redeemable value plus net proceed upon 2. So, solving it further, we are getting the values as in numerator we have written 5.85 plus 0.20, that means interest we have taken after tax plus 100 minus 98 divided by 10, we have added up to the interest portion divided by average of the redeemable value and net proceed, that is 99. So, our cost of debts is 6.11. Similarly, cost of preference shares is computed as dividend plus RV minus NP upon N divided by RV plus NP upon 2. Here dividend is 11 plus 100 minus 97 since flotation cost is 3% or 3 upon 10 and 100 plus 97 by 2 is the denominator. Solving it, we have got the values as 11.30 divided by 98.5 is equal to 11.47. Now, we will use this cost, that is 15%, 6.11% and 11.47% as our cost of capital after tax. Now, since this question is based on computation of weighted average using market value. So, we will find out market value of debentures, market values of preference shares and market value of equity shares. We have already been given in the question the market value of debentures to be 105, preference shares 106 per share and equity is being given as market price 24. So, what we will do, that we will divide it with the face value and multiply the amount with the market value and could ascertain our market price for debentures, preference shares and equity shares. Equity shares are 50,000. So, 50,000 into 24, that is 12 lakh would be the market price. Similarly, for preference shares and debentures we will compute. So, we will present our final presentation in a tabular format where we will be having sources, amount, weights, cost of capital and finally weighted average cost of capital. Debentures would be worked out as 2,88,750, preference share capital 2,38,500 and equity share capital 12 lakh. Aggregating them all, we are having total funds as 17,27,250. So, we will assign the weights to debentures as 288,750 divided by 1727,250. It will give the value as 0.1672. Similarly, preference shares will be given the value as 0.1381 and equity shares as 0.6947. Total of the weight should come as 1. Cost of capital, which we have ascertained, we have simply written it here as 0.0611, it was 6.11%. Then 11.47 is written as 0.1147 and 15% is written as 0.1500. Multiplying the cost of capital with the weights, we are getting the values for weighted average cost of capital as 0.012, 0.102, 0.0158 and 0.1042 respectively. Adding them all, we have got the weighted average cost of capital as 0.1302. Multiplying the same with 100, we have got our weighted average cost of capital as 13.02. So, under this question, we have learned to compute market prices, we have learned to compute cost of capital for each segment of the source of fund, and finally, we have learned how to apply weights to the cost of capital to ascertain the average weighted cost of capital. So, this way we have learned the mechanism to compute weighted average cost of capital. Now, what is the rationale of using weighted average cost of capital? We will learn it finally and conclude our discussion on rationale of weighted average cost of capital. The rationale behind use of weighted average cost of capital is that by financing a specified portion and accepting project yields more than weighted average cost of capital, firm is able to increase the market price of its stock in the long run. This increase occurs because investment proposals accepted are expected to yield more on their equity finance portion than the cost of equity capital, that is KE. Once these expectations are apparent to the marketplace, the market price of the stock should rise, all other things remaining the same. So, this is the rationale behind using the weighted average cost of capital. Now, students, we will summarize our discussion. In today's lecture, we have taken up the practical questions based on calculation of weighted average cost of capital. We have taken up 3 questions. The basic question to compute weighted average cost of capital, where book values are being assigned as weight and we have ascertained the weighted average cost of capital. In another question, we have learned to compute the cost of capital which is not being given, and with the help of additional information, we ascertain the cost of capital for different sources of fund and found out the weighted average cost of capital. And the third question, we have taken up market values of the sources of fund, taken up the weights of market values, found out the different sources of funds cost of capital after tax when such funds are redeemable after certain period, and this way we have found out how to do the computation of the weighted average cost of capital. With this, we are ending up our discussion of today. Thank you.